Ground level theology, breaking it down, making the complex simple. No need to frown, bringing the wisdom from the tower to the street. Making theology enjoyable for everyone we meet. No need for big words, no need for fuss. Ground level theology for all of us. Exploring the depths, unraveling the mysteries, taking on a challenge, simplifying histories. Ground level theology, oh yeah, making sense of the concepts, loud and clear. No need to be a scholar, no need to be elite. Ground level theology, making it sweet.
All right, and we are back to Ground Level Theology, the host that's always the podcast that's always giving you the most. And with us is the co host, Dave Hoffman. Dave, welcome back to Ground Level Theology.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Very, very pleased. Very grateful.
It is the best podcast of all time,
The
ever.
best. It's the first time I've heard of it, but I love it.
You know, some guys think it's the best that's ever been done. You know, it's just some guys are out there and that's what they think, and I think that's great.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I have nothing else to say,
Yeah, oh man. Yeah, guys, we're gonna get to that in a sec.
but I'm here on
Uh,
the podcast.
we will be talking about Trump. We will be talking about Canada. Is it going to be the 51st state? What is going on with all of that? A lot of news, a lot of stuff to cover there. So, we'll be diving into it quickly. But I did also want to re-highlight something I had forgotten in the previous episode. So much to cover there with our guest, Dave Gilmore. It was a pleasure to have him on. A lot of great discussion was had. Certainly more could have been said. I mean, diving into something like apologetics and theology on the topic of music, let alone the ethics of engaging in AI and music, man, it's a wonder that we were even able to pack a lot of that conversation in that amount of time. Uh, but what I forgot to mention at the start and was a little bit more towards the end, and I didn't even want to make too big of a deal because I didn't want to distract from the conversation, was we have released ground level theology music. That is AI music. It is worshipful, it is unapologetic, and it is going to be in every genre if we can get to that. We have Christian contemporary out right now. We have country music. We have bluegrass music. All right. And then we even have hard rock. We have some metal music. And then even ska is out right now. We have many genres, more genres to come, and even more music will be out on the way. But all of it is to the glory of God. Dave, I don't know about you, but I've been listening to a lot of our own music. I've been listening particularly to our ska playlist and even our our metal playlist a lot. Those are the two that I definitely have been gravitating towards and listening to a lot. What about you, man?
Uh, like all of them.
Yeah.
I listen. Well, oh, this is gonna be bad. I listen to like all of them except the Christian contemporary. But
Yeah.
that sounds so bad.
Yeah.
It's very. But actually, I like the Christian contemporary because a lot of all the songs are more theologically rich and accurate and
Yeah.
scripturally accurate than uh, I would prefer to listen to our Christian contemporary playlist than a lot of songs that might be on the typical Christian radio.
Yeah.
That is
Y-
100% for sure. But I listen to all of them. Like metal's obviously my favorite. Hard
Mhm.
rock's my favorite.
It's funny too because I've
But
been driving a lot this last week and I did listen to Christian Contemporary once and I was like, man, this is actually pretty good. And I don't typically even listen to that genre of music, but I was enjoying it because it was so robust in its theology. Where normal Christian contemporary is very kind of watered down, so it's acceptable to everyone. This, and I really do mean it, guys, like it is unapologetically worshipful. It talks about the God man Jesus. I think the first one on the contemporary Christian list, the playlist, is a creed. It's just the affirmation of a
Yeah,
creed.
correct.
I
Which
don't think
of
I
course I
have
love.
ever felt so much like just pride in the song of like, yes, that's what we believe.
Could you imagine if we like, I want the Apostles' Creed sung by Creed? Like, that, I don't know. You heard it,
Yeah.
from my lips to Scott Stapp's distant ears. Do the Apostles' Creed, Scott Stapp.
Creed, we need you to live up to the name.
We need you. Three Doors Down would do it. You should do it.
Yeah. Oh man.
Anyway,
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. Our bluegrass I listen to quite a lot as well. All that to say, folks, is we have really good songs on there. I said it last week, but I can tell you of one or two songs in each genre that I particularly enjoy, that are my favorite, like that I can listen to any given day. And we do have good stuff out there, so it is for you guys to enjoy if you want. Not gonna force it on you, but we are making it available. We even have lo-fi, which is just instrumental. But if you are studying or something and you need some background music, throw that on. Um, it's all good and it's all to the glory of Christ. So it's all for your I don't want to say entertainment. It's all for your pleasure. It's a gift from GLT. Now, if you don't know where to find this music, I have posted it so that it is just below this podcast on the YouTube page. So it'll be podcast season 3, and then below that, the podcast category will be the GLT music with each genre as a different playlist. So you can go ahead and just click on that, and it press play all, start to play through the genre, or you could find whatever song you like from that. But that's where it's at. Just letting you guys be aware of it. It's out there and it will be updated over time. I was real careful not to drop it so that you guys had 100 notifications of every video. I actually had to research that, Dave. I had to research that. I think I saw a few videos and I went through meticulously through each video just to make sure. I was so scared of having like 50 notifications and just losing all our subscribers because it's real easy to accidentally do something like that. Anyways, guys, yeah, so here we
Yeah.
are. We have done music for you. I did want to just blast that out again, just so you guys know. But the topic for today, we already alluded to it. Trump, he made a joke. All right, let's just put this on the table here with its context, and then we can interact with it. Trump talked to the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and when speaking on the matter of potential tariffs against Canadian import and the business that we have with Canada, which apparently makes up roughly 40% of their GDP, um, obviously that would tank the Canadian economy. So Trump had made a joke to Justin Trudeau that maybe they would become the 51st state. So there's a lot of buzz going around the internet right now, a lot of people, a lot of things being said. Dave, I'm going to go ahead and give you the first crack at this. You can start us off because there's a lot of things I have to say, and they're all kind of like from different places, and I'm pretty sure they're all out of left field, to be honest.
yeah, definitely. Because you're like, where do we begin?
Yeah.
Initial, like, and maybe like where I can begin is like my initial reaction, and then we can build a like, okay, when hindsight was 2020, I started thinking through all the things.
Yeah.
My I had I had two almost simultaneous reactions. And my first one was like, "Oh, that'd be brilliant! Like some of the best presidents, like gain territory." I think about Jefferson with the Louisiana Purchase.
Yep.
And just a lot of great presidents were able to gain territory, not necessarily because of tariffs, but just the strongest presidents gain territory. And I'm just trying to think of like, man, wouldn't that just be like the irony of like,
Yeah.
of course it would be like Trump that would do it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like of all people of the last several presidencies, or whoever might be next, like who's has a better chance of like making a business deal to get more
The
land?
man who wrote The
Right,
Art of the Deal and became president is the one
right,
that ended up adding Canada.
yeah. And then like almost simultaneously, I was like, before I get too happy about that, no, I don't want us to gain any territory that would make America communist.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Because then I started
that's
thinking
huge.
politically, it's like it's not just 51st state, because it's like they have provinces and the population, and how would that work with the electoral college? And I'm like,
Okay,
you're like,
huge.
sorry,
You really
right,
got three things that came across
right.
my mind as I thought about it.
That's
Yeah,
what
all
I'm
right.
saying. It
Let's
just blows up. Like you go from like that'd be cool to I don't know how cool that would be. Like real quick.
exactly. Yeah, okay, so the first one. I mean, it'd be a huge win for Trump. I mean, to have
Right.
essentially at least I think Canada's is it bigger than the US? I don't know. I need to look at a
Well,
map again. I'm talking about
geographically it's bigger, but as
land-wise.
far as
Yeah.
land wise, yes. Population, no,
Yeah. Okay.
because
S
yeah,
No, I'm
yeah,
talking
that's
about
right on the
land-wise to have
USA border.
essentially doubled. Now, I'm not thinking of Alaska either when I say that. And then obviously not Hawaii or Puerto Rico because but that would be awesome. Um, Huge win under the belt of Trump for that. It'd be great because then, Canada, we already think of them as like just more liberal US.
Oh
um,
yeah, if you're my grandfather, yeah, it's all the French and the draft dodgers.
yeah, but then also huge win is it would help kind of close off one of our borders. Because we do have a substantial problem from the Canadian border. And I know that when we talk about the border, we typically think Mexico because there's a huge, huge, huge problem with our border on the south. But that's not to the extent to say that we don't have a huge problem of immigrants coming from the north, actually. And they're coming from around the world from the north using Canada as their entrance. Um, so that'd be a huge plus as well if we're able to actually seal that off. We'll have a lot more security, and then the only border threat that we'd really have per se is more of a focus on our southern border. Which, if we acquired Canada, why not just
Just annex Mexico too.
yeah, it might as well just take over the whole system,
We'll just take over
manifest
the whole world.
destiny.
We're gonna play that app that we always see ads for on social media. We're just
Yeah.
gonna conquer the world like the good old days. Caesar would be proud.
Yeah, I was thinking through that too. I just made the joke about manifest destiny, but I hear a lot like in America is such a bad place. It's terrible. It's systemically racist. But when we have such an idea as this, potentially adding Canada. Now, I'm couching this as a hypothetical that won't happen. Okay, I already know it's a joke, but it's caused the conversation. Some people in Canada would like it to happen. There are people that are actually anticipating it as a potential option that could happen. The thing is, and the reason why there's so much buzz is it always starts with a joke. It always starts with a joke because that is the introduction of the idea. So whether people decide to pick it up or not is completely up to them. So I'm saying I don't think it's going to happen. I do think it's a joke. I think there's far too many strings that need to be pulled for something like that to happen, let alone the logistical nightmare. And a lot of that is enough to kill ideas. But the fact that it was uttered and people are kind of taking it a little bit seriously has caused quite the conversation. Um, so I'm just thinking, go down the road a little bit. A lot of people say that America is a systemically bad place. It's horrible. We're the worst. But then I just also think about, how many people come to our country for a better life. My family, my mom having come from Mexico is I mean, I'm part of what is the American dream. Someone who has come to this land looking for a better life and was able to achieve it. So, you know, this is one thing where it's sort of like the American dream and the American project is working. We're able to go and help other nations and help spread. I don't want to say democracy because I don't think it's a political system, but we're able to spread our influence and good into the world. Uh, and so picking up Canada and having them under our wing would be one, such real rubber meeting the road in the American dream for that. It honestly makes me think back to I mean, that is sort of the the dream almost that was being had, from the colonies of spreading across as a nation and bringing about peace and prosperity. Not war or anything. And I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down on a lot of that, but just it's an interesting concept to talk about. Now, that being said, I'm trying to paint a lot of the pro, but the reality of it, the con, what I mean, when that rubber meets the road, actually, there's a lot that a lot of people aren't thinking about. And Dave, you introduced it, and we were right on the same page there. Uh, very close and near and dear to home, but if we add, let's just for 1 second say Canada, all of Canada is one state, right? The 51st state. Let's just say that for now, because that we got to put that aside, and get back to it. Saying Canada is a 51st state, and then knowing that they're going to be part of the election process. How many electoral votes do they get, right? And then on top of that, they're now participating in our elections. So the reason why I say this is kind of close to home, Californians are historically being known right now to leave Canada because this is a sinking ship. And I say that as a Californian. I say that as a native Californian. I say that as someone who is a pastor in California and is still living here. It's a sinking ship right now. We are actively enacting laws that are destroying this state. There are 6 props that pass this election that are just going to make life and the quality of life so much harder and the cost of living so much higher. That was actually passed by the Californian residents. So California residents are still voting in this manner that is destroying the state. Now, when they leave California, let's say to Texas, let's say to Florida or some of these other places, what we're seeing is that Californians are carrying their political ideology. And so some of these other states are now turning bluer, or actually, I think the term would be more purple, because they're going more blue. Um, the problem with that also is it's affecting those states. So if we take on this Canada as our 51st state, we're going to have, as I said in the beginning, our liberal neighbors up north. We're going to have, we will have imported extremely liberal political thought into our elections. Um, that's one thing that really got me, Dave. That's kind of one thing that as I was thinking through that, I was like, would be a huge win, but it would be a logistical nightmare with severe ramifications, especially to our very near future elections just 4 years down the road. Yeah,
Yeah. I yeah. When I read things that their conservatives are at best independents in the U.S.
yeah,
Um, and I mean I am a conservative, but I'm not even like oh you're not conservative, you're not allowed to live here. It's not like that. But I just know they have more. Canada has more territory, more land, yes.
yeah,
But I forget the statistic. It's over 75%. I do know that for sure. It's over three-quarters of Canada's population lives within 100 miles of the U.S. border.
yeah,
So like even though we have all that land, I don't know how much of it's habitable between temperatures and roads and all that. You just need to watch a good episode of Ice Truckers and makes you not want to ever go up there. No offense.
yeah. I just wonder how much of
Oh,
it is, drillable for oil.
yeah, I don't know. But we already have NHL teams, so we don't need you for hockey. All right. Okay. Listen, my favorite pork is barbecue pork. I don't need your special ham.
Yeah.
And I go to Vermont for my maple syrup. Thank you very much. I'm
Right.
just, I'm just trolling everybody. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah.
Canadians listen, and all of our Spotify listeners. That literally the second greatest. We have the listeners in U.S. and the second most listeners, Canada. All right,
Yeah,
so
we love
I'm
we love Canadians.
hey, you know, give me a break. Uh, and I'm sorry, and I know you make fun of Americans too, so it's all fair, okay?
Oh, I'll do
Um,
it all day.
and I'll give you plenty of material. I know. Uh, y'all,
It's my
with my
favorite word,
rights.
man.
Yeah, my favorite word's rights. And okay, no, it is interesting of, who influences who at the same time as well. Are you going
Yeah,
to see uh, you know, one of the reasons why we consider the border crisis a border crisis is not only illegal immigration, but because I'm definitely not against immigration, but
right.
but America is a melting pot, unlike any other country. Uh, it has so many different cultures, so many different ethnicities and values, and it's wonderful. But it's when all those ethnicities and all of those values and all these cultural backgrounds don't find a way to see how it fits into an American structure of, politics, having to deal with taxes, having a business, not having a business, finding how that, fits where certain cultural customs might not be even legal in America, even though it's part of your culture. Um, and so you have to find a balance there of assimilation.
Hmm.
If I had to live in another country, I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb. One, because it's going to take me forever to learn the language because I'm just a slow learner. Depending on where I go, my ethnicity will stand out um, because certain countries are not melting pots, okay? And it's usually like one ethnicity in a majority of the countries in the world. Not that there can't be, exceptions, uh, but who's assimilating who, right? And who's influencing who? So if Canada, and I say all that, so if Canada were to become the 51st state, would they be like, okay, this is our opportunity to make the rest of America like Canada?
Right.
Or do you see yourself, oh, we're the 51st state. We are a state. We have our own rights as a state, but we are part of the greater country known as the United States of
Right.
America. And so you have to kind of like are you just going to be like another California, or do you want to, or you have like the other side of it, or another Texas? I always love comparing California and Texas because both of them have the right to secede as states.
Yeah.
Um, or the only two states that have the right to secede and the power to do so. The size and the economic resources and all the other stuff to actually be able to sustain themselves. Um, but we would typically say Texas is probably more red and conservative. California is more blue, but they both have similar rights
Right.
as states. And I say that where yeah, would Canada find itself at, having an opportunity to be like another California or like another Texas, or are they going to be like another place like Iowa or New York or North Dakota? Because it's something to think about of what you and now it's like just like a marriage where you put all your money in one big pile and you divvy it out to see how it works. You're putting everything you have into our pile.
Yeah.
If you have certain universities, do you get tax? Do you tax your uh, do you tax your people? Do you not? You don't get to have the same health care as you're used to because now you're under like
Yeah.
Medicare, Medicaid because of the U.S. Are people going to be mad about that? Are people going to be
Of course.
relieved that their pastors aren't imprisoned for like meeting during COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah, like so it's like because and we have friends that we knew from Moody that were Canadian that went back. We have friends
Yeah.
from seminaries that are Canadian. They get their visas to come here for school, and they just talk about how like it's not all bad, but it's not as great as they know it could be.
Yeah.
And so, and
Yeah,
I just
you and I
also, uh,
from Moody, and because so many people from around the world come to attend that small, wonderful Bible college. I mean, it is a powerhouse when it comes down to what it's doing for the world. But there is a fact. I mean, we have brothers and sisters and people in our classes in our dorms and people that we are good friends with that are not from the United States. And I do remember, especially around COVID time, it's like I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to leave. Um, I'm not gonna be able to come back because everything's gonna be shut down during that time, and I won't be able to attend Moody. I'm gonna be forced to take a break. And and then even with just the normal immigration, um, logistical problems as well. I mean, we had a friend from Canada that was trying to figure it out. And then we also had a friend from Africa who's trying to figure the same thing out. It's like, yeah, something needs to be done. And I think that's where it's bipartisan. Um, so there needs to be a reform. It can't I think the place that we differ with our American brothers on the other side of the aisle is it can't be open. Um, Now, if we were to add Canada, we do take on actually a lot of people, for one, the Canadian population, but also the immigration policies of Canada as of up to the time by which they enter. And Canada has been destroying its economy a little bit because of that. Um, they have been paying I think it was Syrian immigrants, or I forget where. Yeah, I think it was Syrian refugees. But they came in, they're paying them to stay there, and they are causing a commotion. They were actually doing um, terrorist stuff. But um, in a hope to virtue signal, they tried to import as much as they could. Now, if we take on Canada, we take on all those people that they have been flooding in. So there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that. And I do say it's a logistical nightmare in that sense because there's just so many strings that have to come in, and that's just one of the things that's just true. And then what do you do with all the people that are immigrants to Canada? You know, they don't immediately just get downloaded into our system. Um, so, you know, are they now part of
Sorry,
the
Department of
process?
Homeland Security.
What was that?
Sorry. Sorry, Department of Homeland Security.
I know
It's
it's
like,
crazy just to
oh
think
man.
about. And then you brought up earlier, and I was thinking the same thing. They're not just one state. They have many provinces. So do we now kind of bring them in as Canada and then cut them up into many states? So we don't have 51 states. We'll probably have something like,
55 or like,
yeah,
or
or
those just counties. Those just really big stinking counties.
yeah, I
I don't
wonder,
know.
yeah, that would be interesting. I wonder what the total population of Canada is.
Yeah, that's just that's a lot of work. It's like no wonder Trump is just kind of like, just pay the tariffs. You know what I mean? Like you can like it's like I'm here. You think the tariffs are bad? You could be the 51st state of the U.S. You know, but
Yeah.
it's also like a marriage too. Like you have to talk to your spouse of like, hey, I want you to know that you're about to marry me and I have like 40 grand in student loan debt. Like by marrying me, you're kind of taking on that debt. Just want to let you know. Um, and we would have to, I don't think America owes enough money, so we should, co-sign and take on someone else's debt too. And we're all in this together. The boat's sinking, but we're all in it together. And that's all that matters. Because love is love.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this as well. So apparently, what Canada's population is something upwards of 40 million. Now, New York has something like 8 million. So that would mean Canada in the electoral college, if we were to distribute it, appropriately, Canada would have 4 times the influence of New York in the electoral college. And California, I think New York is like 8 million. I don't know if I said thousand. There,
New
Canada's
York or New
40
York
million.
City?
I
Like New York has how many electoral votes? Is like 10 or 16?
it wasn't. I forget. It wasn't telling me because it was showing me the recent map on how they voted. Let me look that up real quick. I was trying to do quick math
California's
while you
got
were talking.
yeah. California has 54, New York has 28. So 5 times 28, if we're just being fair based on
Yeah,
population, like, oh, okay, so New York gets 20 electoral votes with 8 million people in its state. And so you would literally take 28 um,
yeah, which
times
means, if they vote blue
5.
and they take that, you could have New York, Canada, and
Yeah, that's
California alone, and you would
140.
just lock it in every year. I mean, every election.
Well, and that
Um,
changes the majority as well. That changes the new number from, you need 220 electoral votes to we just added 140 just by adding Canada.
yeah,
And so it's like, and that changes the House of Representatives, that changes the
right.
Senate, changes everything.
Yeah, so it's
And they'd be like, you owe China too? Just kidding.
that's true.
I'm
We
just
would.
playing. We're just going to consolidate our debt. Can we refinance China? Can we refi on our, because now we're,
Oh
oh
man,
my gosh.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
so
being a smart aleck.
it's funny. It's funny as a joke. It'd be really cool to do on a surface level. Would you want that to actually come to pass. And when you really start to think about it, absolutely not. No. No, I don't want to deal with everything that comes with that. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen mixed reviews, not just from Americans, not just saying, oh, it'd be really cool, we're gonna have them, it's gonna happen. Not just from the Canadian side that's saying, God bless that idea because our economy is tanking, our system, our government system isn't working because, it there's their parliamentary system in a sense. There's pros and cons to every government system, but theirs is not necessarily working right now. Their people are fed up, um, and they're a little bit hopeless. I'm not here to say if you're a Canadian listener that describes you. I'm saying what I'm seeing and coming across that describes some people on their feelings on this matter and why they're open to it. Now, to the flip side of the coin, since you waited that long so you can hear both sides of what I'm trying to get to, there are people that know it's a joke, and heaven forbid. It's just a joke. We like Canada the way it is. Canadians are thinking that, and then Americans know, okay, it's just a joke. That's never going to happen. Um, so I've seen this mixed review of what's going out there, and I do think that conversation is being had for some at a far more real level. And so I was like, all right, we gotta talk about this. Um, Trump, man, he knows how to cause a commotion. He's not even in office yet, and all these things are taking place on a global scale. Um, Dave, do you have anything else you wanted to add? There's just a random thought that I have here. I'm really
Well,
gonna
yeah,
come out of
definitely.
left field.
Well, it's almost like it. Well, it got me thinking. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta fix my audio. I had to sit up straight like a man, gird my loins like a man, and get this
To gird
conversation.
up the loins of your mind for this thought.
Yes, guys, if you don't know what that is, don't Google it. Look at your concordance. Look at
Yeah.
your glossary in the back of your study Bible. Do not Google
Yeah.
loins. Um. Anyway, uh, it got me. This kind of like is like a springboard. I'm not trying to go on a rabbit trail, another rant, but just we're thinking if Trump, if anyone was going to get a new territory, it was going to be Trump. And I'm like, how could I say something about someone, so flippantly? Like, where it's like, it could have been any of the other presidents potentially. But it is interesting that this is a springboard for another thing of how much has happened in the last, I mean, November, uh, beginning of November, that's when we all voted, that's when we got the results. It's been just a little over a month and some change. Uh, and we are reading newspaper headlines. I'm scrolling on my phone, hearing about all these things Trump is doing, all these things that Biden's kind of doing, kind of not doing, because he's still president right now. Kamala Harris just fall totally off the planet. Everyone's talking about how she's $20 million in debt, if they're talking about her at all. And everything they're saying about Trump is just how much he's doing already. He's not even inaugurated yet.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy where if you do not have to endorse the man. And I do not, as a Christian man, I do not endorse his character. He is not a Christian. Okay? He's not. And he needs to repent of his sins. He's not perfect. He's not the Holy One. He's not the Christ. Okay? I'm telling you all that. But it is something to also note that, like, I don't know how this can, like, happen where, like, you don't just get to be elected president, number one. Number two, you don't just get to be elected president and have people call you, wars try to start ending, peace negotiations happening. Uh, CEOs are, you know, like Elon Musk, like all these like big names are just like ready to change things. You have RFK, like the people he's picking for his cabinet are like, oh my gosh, I think so much is about to like the script's gonna be flipped. Like it's just crazy. And I'm like, and the man is not even in office yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you have that kind of power where you're like you're president even though you're not president yet? That's just that's something that boggles my mind. It's like,
Yeah.
how do these people get this kind of power and authority? It's not overnight, but it really felt like overnight just because of how quick some of the things happened right after we got all the results and people took the X.
Yeah. I just they know the guy. He was president for 4 years. I always found it funny that, they referred to Donald Trump the way that he was, and then, the Kamala tactic was to say that Donald Trump as president would be a man that would set off nuclear codes and do all sorts of crazy things, and the right was like, he was president. He didn't do any of that when he had the opportunity. Um, so I do find it funny because they refer to Joe Biden when he was up against him as a former VP, but they refused to acknowledge Trump. And then even I think the biggest irony is um, Joe's presidency is characterized by Donald Trump, because the media, Biden himself, no one could get Trump off of their lips for 4 years, and he wasn't even president. Um, I thought that was just funny every single time. But he is a character. He is going to be president. Here's a little thought exercise. I hope it doesn't ruffle too many feathers. It's more of a cautionary way. I hope that it changes your perspective to a more nuanced, to a more sober way of how you should be viewing politics, and even how we need to be engaging. Even if you are a fan of Trump, you guys know me. I love the things that he does. I'll back him up all day, every day, if he is pro-life, if he does the things that we want. Um, I support him in that. But I'm also not a Trump fan. I'm not a Trump fanatic. I'm not someone who's going to support him no matter what he does. And Dave even said it. We're not huge fans of his character. In fact, we're skeptical as to whether he's actually a Christian, and we know that it is very convenient to be politically Christian, especially if you have an R next to your name. So we are skeptical of that. We don't want to be taken advantage of. We want to be wise disciples of Christ, not of a political system. And we do not think that the American dream or America is the salvation of the world. Jesus Christ is the salvation of the world. Jesus Christ is the answer. I was just talking to my wife this week as we were driving over to one of my family's birthday parties, and I said the real solution to urban neighborhoods and what's going on there is never going to be government intervention. It's never going to be any of that. There is no way that you can solve that problem in that way. The only way that you can help the urban neighborhoods is through Christ, because the problem is sin. And we shouldn't lose sight of that. We shouldn't lose sight of who we are. We shouldn't lose sight of our mission. And we shouldn't lose sight of the gospel. And the gospel is not be as American as you can be. It's not if we only had more human rights. And it's not if people had more freedom of speech, the world would be okay. The solution to the world's problems is to come under Jesus. So I do want to say that. But also, this is a thought experiment, and then I'm going to denounce it right away after. But I mean, if we just think back in who this is geared towards, are those people that I find uncomfortable around when they talk about how much in support they are of Donald Trump, even to some policies that are actually contra-biblical. Um, but I mean, we're talking about a guy who, in his first presidency, he did wonderful things. He did. He was a man of peace. He tried to work across both sides of the aisle. He was trying to be bipartisan. The left just really shut him down, and the only thing that he could do, he did through the his own writing. I mean, he passed things himself because I think that it was the House that was shut down, even though it was the majority Republicans. His own party shut him down, but yet he still went as far as he could to do the most, and he was very successful. Now, that being said, he he did what he could during his presidency, but he even got impeached in the last year of his presidency. So he almost had about 3.5 years of presidency. Well, now he's back. And the rhetoric that he's had, according to the Democrats, is he's going to be a dictator. He's going to rule. He has talked about using the military if need be. Um, People respect him very much. You know, Russia's getting in line, China's getting in line. He's a man that's bringing peace and said he's essentially willing to use the hammer. So, you know, maybe he's going to be a very forceful president that helps bring the global economy and the globe back uh, under control in this second term. But what does that sound like that I've just uh, talked about? You know, you have your first 3.5 years, and then your second 3.5 years is going to be a little bit more dominant, but everyone likes him. That sounds like the Antichrist. You know, how do people come and take the mark of the beast that are even fooled and are Christian? Because they come under and become fanatics of a person rather than a politic and policies. They start to join in ideology and a person rather than Christ as their forebearer. Now, I don't think Trump is the Antichrist. Like I said from the start, I'm going to build something up and immediately break it down. But I do think it's a thought experiment that you should come through and then realize how much am I placing myself into Trump. To be frank, it's a little disgusting sometimes when I have these conversations and I see how much both sides are in an echo chamber to such an extent that I can finish the conversation before you do. And even retorting some of the same things that are just as wrong as when I talk to the other side and they have their own talking points that are also false. And what I see is both sides are following an ideology. Both sides are following their guy. And I just think it's really dangerous on our side because I'm registered as a Republican because I like voting. um, so even on our side, I think it's just as disgusting, or if not more, because we're the side that's characterized as the moral Christian side. We're the side that's characterized as religious. And when we've done that, we've mashed some of our heroes politically with being exemplars and heroes of our faith. And I think that's where it gets really dangerous. And so, like I said, I'm just doing this. Maybe you cringed. That's perfectly fine. Maybe you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that. That's perfectly fine. But if it's just to emphasize, hey, come into politics with a level head. Trump is a great guy. He's going to be a great president, but he's not your Christ and he's not your Messiah. Feel free to critique him because he's not going to do everything right. Then I will be happy. That's all I want. Do you have anything else to add, Dave? I think we've pretty much belabored the point.
You know, I'm happy to join what you just said with this 51st sentence. And so that was great. Yeah,
Oh man,
what
okay.
he said. Mike's my president. Hashtag he's my president.
I just want us to come to I just want us to do politics far more level-headed. I want us to not be taken advantage of. And if you are going about everything with this type of level head, you will not succumb to the Antichrist. You will be someone who is always looking at the seasons, even as you're voting, even as you're working, even as you're sharing the gospel and doing what God has called you to be. I see it so often of people that are following ideologies and people that are following people, and I'm just calling us all back to just think again. All right, that's all I want. I want us to be more busy with the gospel. So I hope this conversation was helpful. I hope that as we talk about Trump, as we talk about what he's doing, the good stuff that he's doing, and even the jokes that he's got that's got everyone buzzing, is Canada going to be the 51st state? Probably not. But we can talk. We can talk about what's going on in the world, and we can talk about what's going on in the world as Christians. So this is just one more episode under the belt, and we got one more left in the tank for this season before we go on break and get started for season 4 in the next year. We're already starting to rack ideas about that, so it's going to be a good season. But the next one, you're going to want to tune in for. So with all that being said, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to let us know what you thought about this in the comment section. Do you think Canada is going to be the next state? I don't know. Honestly, if it does happen, I'd be a little bit surprised, but I'm not going to be totally surprised. It's crazier things have happened. So yeah, let us know what you thought about this down in the comments. And with all that being said, we'll see you in the next episode. See ya.